All right, all right, all right. So we got a special guest in the building today.
Yeah.
Yeah. None other than my boo. Give some noise. Welcome to Vault Conversation.
Good to be here.
Yes. So this has been something that's been in the works for a while. And my first season, I've just been having people on that are close to me and that I love. And so it made all the sense in the world to bring you on. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself. And then we're going to just run it back and do like a quick recap so people can know what to expect.
Cool. I go by Phil.
All right.
Phil Dupree for all the government people.
Okay.
Just a regular guy who dibs and dabs into a lot of other things.
Like what?
Music being the main one.
Yeah, beats.
Beats.
Fire. He's actually the person that made my intro and my outro. Okay, so he's being very humble right now. But I mean, let's go ahead and just like, nope. Let's get it. You know,
Wow.
make some noise. I'm sorry, I got my noise, my buttons, my sound effects mixed up. But no, super talented. I've always I've loved your vibe. Don't be dibble and dabble. Like, you're pretty nice at what you do. So
I do okay.
Okay, bro. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Pretty decent with the Clippers too. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it?
And a great father. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Great.
All right.
So the reason that I invited you on today is because I feel like you represent a large group of men. And I feel like sometimes people, when they're going through things, they take the knowledge that they have of something and they think that it's, maybe like just average, but what to you is like maybe, like that's just another lesson, that's just another thing is actually gold to somebody else. And so I feel like you've had a pretty interesting journey, in my opinion. And I wanted to let you share that with the world. And I thought that this was a great place to have it because I feel like things that go in the vault, like they're not you don't talk about them every day, but you do acknowledge that it's a very real thing that you went through and that happened. So
For sure.
I wanted to start because I wanted to first talk about what attracted us to each other. And we talked about this briefly earlier. But we met back in 2018. Mm-hmm. I got to Eglin and you were in processing me, readiness, looking real good, looking like a whole snack over there. Ooh. And we didn't really talk at first. We didn't talk for the first few months I was there. No. It wasn't until I was about to close my house and I needed help moving that I asked you. And then, just getting to know you further, it was like, I could identify because as I was saying earlier, I had just did a BOP, which is like a basic preference from, I was in Little Rock before with my child's father, and that situation was just like so toxic. It didn't work out. And so a BOP is like when you intentionally move away and like attempt to get a base that is like preferable to you. But I knew that it meant getting rid of my support, like all the friends and everything that I had. And Cam was like super young, but I did it because I was like, there was no peace like at my previous space. And so it was a decision that I made for myself, for my happiness, for my peace. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I was scared that, I wasn't going to have the support wherever I was going, and just kind of like trusting that everything would work itself out on the back end. And so when we started having our conversations, I could very much identify with that. And then as we continued to get to know each other, I just felt like we connected on that level. So I don't know if you want to give a start to your story or if you want me to kind of like talk about where you were at when we met.
No, I mean, I guess I can speak to it. When we met, I was preparing myself for a transition.
What kind of transition?
That transition being going through the divorce process, thinking about going through the divorce process, what I wanted to do with my life, what I wanted my life to be, in a sense. So when we,
And
started,
how old were you?
I was 29.
How long?
10 years. Married for 10 years, which is crazy, right? I mean,
Right. That's why I'm like, you're
all
leaving
of
out
my,
the.
so all of my 20s. But yeah, married for 10 years. Nothing bad to say about her. Being high school sweethearts and then going to being married, you miss out on a lot of dating experiences that you would normally have.
Personal experiences. Like
Personal
getting to know
experiences,
yourself.
yeah. Just trying to figure out what you like and what you don't like. At the time, she was what I liked. She was what I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life. But that's not what happened. As we got older, I feel like we just kind of grew apart. And like I said, nothing bad about her. I just think after a while, our personalities were just different.
I remember one of the biggest things that stood out to me in our first conversations was like you saying like you don't know who you are outside of being like a husband and a father.
Yes.
Like you couldn't even speak like what is Phillip like? What does
Yeah.
Phillip want to do? And I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah. I felt like I devoted so much of my efforts and time to being what I was supposed to be, what I felt like I was supposed to be for everybody else. And I just neglected myself. And I wasn't necessarily doing the things that I like to do for myself. And it started to show its face a lot towards the end that I just didn't know who I was. And I just got tired of feeling lost.
So just when you said like you were thinking about that, like what were some of the things that you were considering? Like what did you feel like you were missing out on anything? Did you like what was really going through your head? Because as I said earlier, I feel like when people like you said you're 29, so it's like when you're going into your 30s, most people are trying to, you hustle all through your 20s to hopefully be able to, reap some of those benefits and enjoy in your 30s. Nobody's really expecting to have to like uproot their life. And not to make 30 seem super old or anything, but I feel like people always talk about like 30s is like it. Like 30s is when you really know yourself and you really can go out here and, just be comfortable. So to me, making that kind of decision at that point in your life, like what were some of the things that were going through your mind then? And then how did that transfer to the other side?
Well, first, I don't know. I don't want to equate it to how I was brought up or anything like that, but I just never really got that. Hey, in your 20s, you need to be grinding out, doing all this, trying to make it whatever for your 30s. Like that was never something that was presented to me. That was never something that was talked about, even amongst my friends or peers or anything. Nobody really had that mindset coming from where I came from. Um, so for me, getting in the military, it was like I'm straight. I have a stable job. I have a check that I don't have to go to work every day to make sure I'm getting a certain amount of hours to get it. Same amount of money every 2 weeks or whatever. Benefits, all this stuff. I felt like I'm straight. I'm good. And I guess it wasn't until, getting a little older, I started to realize that this is not enough. I seen, everybody, all my peers and stuff around me, they all had like plans of what they wanted to do. They all like the military wasn't the end all be all for a lot of them. It was the means to an end. And I just didn't really have that. And I had to start looking at, what I want to do. Like after the military, what am I going to do?
Which is heavy in itself because you see a lot of people, they write it out to chief and, the military is everything. And then they get to that 20 or in some cases 23 or 26 and they still don't know who they are, what they like, what I mean? So I think to even acknowledge that is already a step ahead of the people that just write it out and, get to the end and don't know what to do or where to go.
Yeah. And yeah, that was a hard process because, like I said, I didn't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know, I have interests and hobbies and stuff like that. But like I said, my mindset, going through my 20s, it wasn't like, okay, figure this out, grind, do all this. And then your 30s, you built this platform to go forward. I didn't really have that mindset. I had things that I was good at and stuff like that, but I didn't piece it together to say, hey, you can flip this into this to make money for such and such or whatever. So that whole process, man, of trying to find myself and what I like to do. And I'm not there yet. And obviously, I'm not um, done with that journey. Still going. But it was definitely a challenge. A lot of times I felt like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to turn. And I found myself asking people, looking for people to give me the answer rather than trying to find the answer for myself, because I can't ask somebody what to do with my life. I had to figure it out on my own. So that was another thing that was a challenge for me. Because, when you're lost and you just see other people doing so good and everything, like you want to ask like, oh, what did you do? What did you do? But obviously their story is going to be different, just like everybody else's story is different. So wanting to ask the question, like, what did you do or whatever, to friends and peers and stuff like that, but then taking the information and trying to flip it to fit what I wanted to do and figure out what I wanted to do was a challenge, because I don't feel like I have the traditional like mindset like other people. Like I'm not really business savvy like that or whatever, but I just have things that I like to do, and if I can figure out how to make money off things that I like to do.
So, I mean, we talked about, being high school sweethearts and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people kind of advise against it because you don't know yourself, but can you speak to some of the benefits that you did find in having partnership early on and to, kind of like find your way?
Yeah. So having that partnership so early, it was really one of those things of like, we started together, building, trying to create a foundation for this family that we was getting ready to have. But it came with stability for sure. Just knowing that you had somebody that was there with you, that was basically ride or die. Like she was willing to, she was almost close to graduating, and then I uprooted her and we left. So she still finished, but it was a lot harder than what it should have been. But just having that stability, having that person there at such a young age to kind of fall back on was good. It was love. It was a rock.
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like a lot of people kind of like just stumble through their 20s. So like, I feel like that's definitely the military in itself. I feel like makes you grow up a lot faster than necessary. Like if you look around, you're like, what, 19, 20, other 19, 20-year-olds are like still drunk, like just trying to make it to work on time. So to do that and then be a father and then be a husband, when other people are just like trying to get their life.
I had to grow up fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to kind of go back because I saw a statistic. Actually, when we were talking, I can't remember when this was, but it was just talking about how now women are the majority, like how they initiate divorce and, all of that. And I say that to say that most men don't initiate. And I don't know if that's because they don't know how, or if they don't think it's worth it, or they're not ready to give up their money, or whatever the case may be.
But it's definitely the not ready to give up the money for sure.
Okay, but what was that deciding factor and that deciding moment for you, where it was like, I know that it's going to be tough, and I know that it's going to essentially suck, but at least initially anyway. But this is the best decision for me.
Ultimately, it was my happiness. We've had this conversation before. In that marriage, I wasn't unhappy with her. I was unhappy of our relationship, in a sense. Like I didn't feel like we were connected, the way that we should have been. Looking at a lot of my other married friends and stuff like that, and they just seemed so connected and they just had fun. It just seemed like they just loved being around each other. And me and her, we just didn't really have that. And it just started becoming more and more noticeable with the growing apart that we were doing. And I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to be in a relationship where I felt like this was my person. Like we are ride or die. Like that's my best friend. That's, whatever. And we wasn't having that. We were not that. And I got tired of going through the motions. I got tired of pretending that I was happier than what I was. And I had to make a judgment call. And it was a hard one.
How much of that had to do with like do you feel like at any point you were just unhappy like with yourself and where you were, and that kind of like bled over?
In a sense, yeah. I was a little bit unhappy with myself a little bit. Actually, I'll say more than a little bit. I don't know. I just felt like there was no drive. There was no purpose there. Like it was. It's gonna sound weird, but it was like too comfortable, right? It was a comfort that was like you ain't got to do nothing but just right. Like I didn't have to push for anything. I didn't have to try to do anything extra. I didn't have to try to be anything more than what I was. And that wasn't the reason for the divorce or anything like that. But I don't know. I just felt like there was no more challenge, I guess. Right. And even, trying to do little things to try to spice it up or to try to make it better or whatever. It just kind of wasn't really working. Like I said, I think it was just because of our personalities. She's more of a laid back kind of not serious, but she's not a goofball like myself. She don't do weird stuff. like, yeah. And in order for me to be that, like I enjoy being that. I enjoy being goofy. I enjoy being just like carefree, fun loving, right? But I'm my best at that when I have somebody else doing that with me that I can go back and forth with. And she just wasn't that.
What can you say was the hardest or the darkest part of the divorce?
Oddly enough, the hardest part of the divorce for me was letting go of the responsibility. Letting go of feeling like I have to make sure she's okay. I have to make sure, like, letting go of feeling like I'm responsible for what she's doing or responsible for how well she's doing. That was hard. I tell people all the time, it's hard to get divorced from somebody that you're not actually mad at, So that was definitely a hard thing because I can see that she was hurting. She didn't want it to happen, but I did. But I also still felt responsible for her in a sense, and it was hard letting that part go for a while. Like that was probably the thing that took me the longest to do was just let go of that responsibility and a little bit of the guilt too.
I was gonna say,
a little bit of the guilt because it was like plainly put, I made a very selfish decision. Right. Even though, like, people say, you got to do what's right for you, stuff like that. It still was a selfish decision because we have kids together and stuff like that. And we have so much history. And it was kind of blindsided by her. It wasn't something that just like was rearing its head and it was coming up. It was just like one day I was just like, hey, I don't want to do this no more. It was nothing that she was expecting to happen or expecting to come. So there's a guilty part there, especially because I feel like I've moved on and I've found happiness and I'm being happy, and I'm finding purpose in my life. So yeah, I feel a little guilty about that.
Okay, I think that that's fair, and I also think that that's honest because I feel like a lot of people, and I'm gonna just say, in my experience, men like they move on, to other people relatively quickly. I feel like women do take the time to do the work.
That is true,
and to having been on both sides. As in, I've never been married before, obviously, but leaving somebody and being left, it's just, you do definitely need that time, which is why I feel like for our relationship, I mean, it was like well over a year and some change before we kind of like, I wouldn't say got serious, but got into a place like, okay, are we really going to do this? Because for me, I felt like, okay, you're somebody that has been married your entire 20s. Like when you're married like that, there are certain people that are, see the ring and be like, anyway. And then there are people who are going to see the ring and they're like, nah, I'm just going to steer clear of that. So I say that to say some people don't know how attractive they are to the other people because most people see the ring and they're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that. So now, you being divorced, it's like, what if women that you thought maybe were out of your league before, that you never thought would have been attracted to you before, are now, and you start, experiencing that. I just think that time to play around is super important, and I wanted you to have that. We've had to recover from some stuff, but I feel like it was ultimately best. Like, it's not like you moved it right in with me or anything like that. Like, you got on your feet, you got your own place, you figured out your process for how you were going to do your, routine with your boys, and I think all of those steps were super necessary for the long
super
haul.
necessary. Let me tell you, boy, it was the comfort level of being married to the type of person I was married to not really having to worry about taking care of a lot of stuff, and then going the opposite direction, and now like grocery shopping and all this stuff like that. Yeah, it was definitely a change
Yeah.
that I did not realize that I did not know how to do until it was time for me to do it. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult process, especially when it came to my boys, because I had to switch from kind of just being that father in the house that's like kind of like the, I don't want to say end all be all, but like, last decision, I have
Right.
more of the authoritative, whatever. I'm more there for the authoritative part of it. Not saying that, I'm not the nurturing stuff like that and all those other things,
Definitely.
but going to, just having them on my own and having to play both roles was a little bit of a switch. I don't think it was extremely difficult, but I did have to start noticing certain things, like certain way I talk to them and things like that. Even though they are boys, I don't want them to look at me as just a authoritative figure or just somebody that's like, oh, like to be intimidated by. I wanted them to be able to have an actual relationship, something that was built on more of respect rather than fear. I wanted to be a role model for sure. Basically, I don't know. I wanted to be everything that my dad wasn't when I was growing up. And I'd say my dad was a bad dad. We have very similar situations. And seeing him go through that situation and then me go through my situation, I'm more understanding now of how he was, like what happened, the disconnect between me and him. And I think that's what really played the role in making sure I didn't do that, right? Because as a kid, I didn't understand the emotional thing that he was going through. I just felt like you left and that was it, right? But it was,
seeing your parents as people
it is
crazy.
mind blowing, right? Yeah. So yeah, trying to be there for them and play both roles, being nurturing and hard on them at the same time was a tightrope to walk, but I think I kind of got it down.
I kind of want to go back to something we're talking about, like playing both roles. And I remember, and we were having a conversation, and you were saying like how she did, all of those things. Like she cooked, she did the laundry, she cleaned, she did the finance, like all of these things. And for me, it's like I feel like our roles, like our times, have been reversed. Yeah. So for me and my son's dad really didn't make it past the first year. I've been those things. I've been, all of those things for myself, and so trying to, first of all, date while having a kid is like doing life on like hard. It's like an extreme sport. And this was my first relationship outside of his dad, having him. But I remember just being like, she had the opportunity to be your wife and just be your wife. You know what I'm saying? And pick up those wifely characteristics and, how to cater to you. She was able to be a mom and just be a mom when she work or not work. You know what I mean? But for me, it was like I was always all of those things, like from the very beginning. And so I felt like certain things I was lacking on, whether it was femininity or whether it was just that, like, I guess, wifely touch, because I felt like I was always juggling everything and just trying to whatever. And I remember you saying to me, like, I can do my own laundry. I can literally cook my own food. I can do all of those things. But like the friendship part, like the best friend part, like those were the things that were important to you. And I just remember those words just changing my perspective a lot, because people always are like, oh, men are this, and men really are like, so, well, in some ways you guys are complicated, but it's really so simple. Like women think like, you can cook the best meal, you can have the best body, you can have the best sex, you can have all of this. And really what it comes down to is that friendship piece. And like, can I laugh with you? Can I do this? And for where I was at in my life, that made me feel more competent than I felt at the time. I always credit you for really coming into my womanhood, because my relationship with my son's father was just so toxic that I just was always operating in like a defense mode and like a masculine mode. And another thing that you said, I remember, because when going through this process, it's like my son's dad was like, not only are we not working out, but I got this chick and this chick right here in your face, and we going on to, and it was just like all this stuff coming at me so fast. And I felt like I was just dealt with so poorly, like things that I'm still like recovering from, and like, to this day. And I remember not having, it's like I had a understanding of like, I understand you're, getting a divorce and all of the things that's hard with that. But mind you, I had never been married. So
Yeah.
like, I didn't really have a whole understanding. And I remember you were like, just because you were treated like shit does not mean that everybody has to like be handled like that.
Yeah.
And it just was like, it hit me like a brick because it's like, first of all, you don't realize sometimes how like damn, I really was treated like shit. You know what I mean? And you have those expectations like, dang, why is she like acting like this or why is she acting like that? And it's like, that is realistically not how it's supposed to be handled. You know what I'm saying? When you love somebody for 10 years and that's just like marriage, not counting, all of the history, you deal with them a certain way as delicately, as possible. And so I think that part is just important to note in going into, or attempting anyway, to go into a new relationship while wrapping things up with an old like life. I don't even want to call it a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely did it the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still held a level of respect for her, right?
Yeah.
I'm not, like I said, I definitely didn't do it the way I should have done it. But there were certain things I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that much. I'm not going to go that far. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I definitely did the wrong way. I actually had to reach out to her like after a while and really apologize about the way I went about the whole situation because it was really messed up. But yeah, about the the wifely duties and things like that, I definitely appreciated the stuff that she did. As far as the clothes and cooking and handling like paying the bills, because I didn't require her to work. Like I didn't make her work. Like if you wanted to go work, you can. If you didn't, that was fine. Like I was making enough money for us to go off of it. And with that, she took care of paying the bills and stuff like that. Honestly, for a good probably 5 years of our marriage, I don't think I checked the bank account. I don't think I did. Like I never checked the bank account. I just knew that it was money in there or whatever. Like, I didn't check. Yeah, she set up all the bills and stuff, made sure the bills and stuff was being paid. I just provided the money. Like my whole mindset was like, even like when it came to trips and stuff like that, taking vacations and stuff, I didn't care what we did, where we went. My thing was, hey, I provide the money. I just show up and go. Like I show up and pay. That's it. That was my job. I show up and pay. That was it. So yeah, getting that divorce and then having to really be on top of all that stuff myself was definitely a transition that I was not aware that I was not ready for. But it was.
Oh my God.
But at the same time, I was very adamant about being able to do it, being able to stand on my own 2 feet. I was very adamant about making sure that I was doing that. So even when I was, humbly crawling back to her to ask for help, I would only try to take a little bit and then build off of that. I think I've told you the story several times. That first time I had to go grocery shopping for the kids and myself, she had to come to the store and help me grocery shop because I didn't know what I was doing. But I've learned. I've evolved.
No, that's funny because I remember, I think I said this, I was like, yo, sometimes like when I think back to it, it was almost like dating somebody who like just got out on their own.
Man, that's what it felt like.
Like I think on your 33rd birthday, I was like, happy 21st, because it was just like, it's been 3 years since then. And like, that's
what it felt like.
It was so interesting. I was like, oh my goodness. But I mean, that just shout out to the roles that we played.
Yeah, for sure.
Like people don't put a lot of gravity on keeping a house going and like.
Fellas, we don't know how hard it is until we gotta do it ourselves. Okay, cooking and cleaning bathrooms and washing clothes. And one thing that I found out that I hate the most is washing kids' clothes, especially when they're close in age. Because it's like, all right, who does this belong to? Is this yours? This yours? Like, like it was just, I don't know, man. I hated it.
You haven't said how many kids you have and how old they are.
Oh yeah, so 3 boys, 12, 9, and 4. Christian, Cameron, and Carter, all C, done on purpose after Cameron. So.
No, I think that we've been talking about this, but like one kid, all right.
Nah,
2
3
kids, like
3 boys, man.
3 is like, jeez.
Yeah, I never thought that I would have 3. I'm not gonna lie to you. Christian was supposed to be the only one.
Well, here we are.
Here we are now.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about finding yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's a journey that I am very, very proud of you on thus far. Just
Thank
because
you.
you've been, oh my God, just because you've been so relentless on it. And it's like, no matter how many times you fumble, like literally you just like start again and you'll be like, okay, well, I'm starting from here. Like
Yeah.
last month,
Pick up where you left
different
off.
me. This month, new me. Like,
Exactly.
but I think that that's so important because I feel like people think once you make up your mind that you're going to do something different, like you just can't mess up again. And like, you just got to start and like be perfect from that point on. But like giving yourself grace, I think that you've done a good job of doing that. And even like in our relationship, I feel like, especially when it comes to forgiveness and the things that we've, you know, had to really have real conversations about, forgiving yourself and being like good with yourself is like really, really important.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes you just got to get to a point where you're like, well, listen, check this out. I'm good with me. And I've already like, and not to like shit on the other person and be like, your feelings are invalid, because we've had those conversations as well. But just being like, listen, I have made up my mind. I am owning up and like acknowledging these things.
Yeah.
But this is where I'm at going forward. And either you are going to rock with that or you're not. And giving that person, you know, the opportunity to do so or not.
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to know what that process has been like, just getting to know yourself. And then really, because like once you get to know yourself, you really got to hold yourself firm to who you say that you are now. And so what has that been like for you?
For whatever reason, I look at everything as kind of like a game or a challenge, right? As long as I'm still being challenged, as long as I'm still feeling like, as long as I don't feel like I'm winning with ease, in a sense, right? Which kind of sounds weird because you want to win at life, right? But I feel like if I'm winning and I'm just uber whatever, then I'm losing the drive to keep going, right? And I want to be good at this life thing, like life in the sense of like being happy with myself, fulfilling goals and things like that. And as you alluded to, yeah, I've stumbled many times. But the one thing that I feel like I've developed and I've really been sticking to is never giving up on trying, right? Like I feel like I'm always trying, right? If I mess up, okay, this is where I messed up. Let's try something different. Let's try this or let's try that. Or just not giving up, period. And just, you know, keeping it going. Because I know that I'm going to get to the other side eventually, right? But I'm not going to get to the other side if I stop trying. So always trying. And yeah, just trying to figure out what I like, right? Like what I like, what makes sense to me, and not going off of society's norm, not following the trends, not following stuff like that, but just doing what I feel is right for myself and kind of just owning it. Because I'm starting to realize, you know, as I'm getting older in my advanced age of 33, that now life is just more about comfortability, right? Being comfortable in your own skin, doing things that are comfortable to you. Don't get me wrong, like you have to get outside your comfort level, you know, outside your comfort zone in order to progress. But I feel like your internal self will let you know when that time is, when it's time for you to jump outside of that and try to do something else. And for a while now, I've just been feeling like I've been in a transition period in my life with just like coming into my own, in a sense, which is, yeah, I'm a late bloomer, I guess. You can say.
Most people wouldn't start over at 30.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely started from the ground up at 30. And I don't just mean finances. I mean, my life in general. Like, yeah, my mentality, everything. I started over when I turned 30. And it has been a struggle. I didn't realize how much I didn't know. I didn't realize how closed-minded I was to a lot of things. Yeah, it's been a journey of surprises, honestly. Like, it's so weird because, like, I used to think, like, certain things were not possible, but I just really didn't do the work to figure out, like, all I got to do is this. Like, that's it?
Yeah.
Like, so figuring that out and just, I guess, going for it in a sense. I mean, I haven't made any, like, big moves or anything like that, but I definitely feel like, I've been putting myself in position to make things possible.
No, I wanted to acknowledge that because I feel like, and I've told you this before, like when we first got together, it was a lot of, I don't know. What do you want to
It
do? I don't
was.
know.
Yeah.
What's your plan? I don't know.
I
Like,
didn't know.
and I mean, while I respect the honesty, because don't,
Yeah.
just feed me bullshit, but somebody, nope, if they don't know how they feel, they can't tell you how they feel. Or if
Yeah.
they're making it up and they're not really in tune, then you're really not getting anywhere.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I love about you as a man and as my man is that you're so transparent and you're honest and you're like a willing trying man, like you said. So when you didn't know, you really didn't know. Was it frustrating to me? Yes. Like,
Me too.
know something. Like, what do you know? You know what I mean?
Me too. But I think it was just more because you was asking questions nobody ever asked me. It's like you was forcing me to think about stuff that I didn't think about. So, like a lot of people say like, no, what's your 5-year plan, your 3-year plan, whatever. I'm in the military. I got a steady paycheck. I got benefits. So that's my plan, and that's what it was for a long time. It wasn't until recently I really started making goals and trying to pursue those goals.
Yeah.
Right? Which is in itself is a scary thing.
It is. But seeing them come to fruition, like
true.
Ooh.
But when they don't, oh man.
Well, then also, but you know what I will say, like in you asking, saying that I asked you the questions, like I feel that through my 20s, I've taken a lot of like alternative routes, on literally almost everything, and so that has kind of forced me. Like even if you just like take it surface level at my military career, I don't have no golden career. I had an Article 15 in my first enlistment.
Me too.
I had the LOR, you know what I'm saying, in the second enlistment. Well, the referral EPR. None of you guys probably know what I'm talking about. But point being, significant setbacks. And like in the military, setbacks like that run you about like 3 to 5 years trying to overcome them. And so it just made me rely less on the military and the benefits that they have and like me and the things that I can control.
Yeah.
And for me, that was definitely school. And then it was just figuring out who I am, because I feel like a lot of times, especially people that are in like senior NCO positions, they get the rank and the authority to tell you who you are and like what you're good enough for. You're good enough for this job. This year you did okay, when I know that I did amazing. You know what I'm saying? So I had to like affirm myself in who I really, really was, instead of letting somebody who, like, even just recently, somebody saying like, I don't deserve this, who doesn't even have some of the things that I have in terms of like qualifications. And okay, so you're a person just like I'm a person. You just literally have more time in service than I do. And now you're in the position to tell me whether I'm good enough or not. And so a lot of my confidence ended up coming from me having to affirm myself and not going off of that. And I want to roll that into relationships with your family. You know what I mean? With projecting, like when people project onto you, you know, what they think you can and can't do. Like, no, I can do it. You probably can't, but like, we're good over here. Like, we're going to be all right. And so I wanted to tie that back into the divorce process and the finding yourself process. Because I feel like you also have another really strong relationship that is, struggling. And I feel like that's very, very hard.
It is.
When you're already going through a loss and a death so deep as, a divorce. And so as much as you want to touch on that, I want to
you
get into
the weeds.
I mean, a little bit, but we're not going to go too deep. Just
all right. So the relationship between me and my mom through this process has been shitty, right? Real shitty. And it was very hurtful. Very, very hurtful. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, basically, I didn't get the support I felt like I needed from her during that process. And because of that, and some other things, we just haven't talked like in probably almost 2 years now. Actually, no. I talked to her last year. I went to Tennessee to try to mend the situation, but it didn't work out. So we just haven't really talked. I just kind of keep her over there and I'm over here and I'm doing my thing. But out of that, like I said earlier, I didn't understand what my dad was going through at the time. But out of this whole situation, me and him have gotten a lot closer than what we used to be. And that's been great. I don't know. We are definitely one of the same every day. I feel like I'm getting more and more like him. And I don't know, we have a weird relationship. We have a relationship like old friends. Whereas like we can go without talking to each other for a while and then call and check in.
And
Hey,
like
how you
nothing
doing? What's up? You
changed.
good? No, no, I'm good. Whatever, whatever. And then it'd be like a 5, 10 minute conversation. That's it. But there's no
Do
beef.
you want it
No,
to be more?
I would like it to be. And I know it's not too late, but I wish that we built that relationship from a kid up, right? And because I hear so many guys, yeah, my dad, did this, taught me that, whatever. And again, no shade to my dad or anything else, but I felt like I had to learn how to be a man from watching other people, not from watching my dad, right? And like I said, there's no shade to him for it. He probably just didn't know how to handle the situation, what was going on. But I've been very, very clear at saying that I want to be that for my kids, right? I don't want them to grow up and say that about me, right? I don't want them to grow up and say that my dad didn't teach me how to be a man. Like I'm here, right? I try to make it clear, I divorced your mom. I didn't divorce you guys. I didn't divorce my kids. I divorced their mom. But I'm still in your life. I didn't walk out on you or them. I'm still in their life. I'm still prevalent. Even if their mom gets with somebody else, I just wanted to be clear. Like they got a dad. I'm here. I'm present. I don't just pay child support. Yeah, but I mean that relationship is cool. It's not everything that I would like it to be, and I don't think it's necessarily too late. I just think that we're both just kind of set in our ways. Like we're comfortable with the relationship as it is. Yeah, and like I'm not even necessarily comfortable, but I'm okay with it. That makes sense.
I mean, I say to that like a couple of things because one, like certain people really can only love you like in the way that they can love you,
Yeah.
and also just with the growth and like how we're talking about getting to know yourself because I feel like people can only really offer you what they know,
Yeah.
and sometimes when you look back at your parents, like I said, seeing them as human beings and seeing like where they either failed to do the work and like you being more aware, you're like, wow, they really can't understand what I'm trying to say because they haven't even like it doesn't click in their brain because they don't have the mental capacity. Not to insult like them as like like they're dumb or something,
Yeah.
but I feel like the generation that we are in now is a way more vocal generation
For sure.
than we've had in the past. And so a lot of people they didn't talk about certain things, therefore they didn't go to therapy for certain things.
Go to therapy, people.
Go to therapy. Like
therapy.
they didn't talk through certain emotions and then you're expecting them to give you that because you look at like that's my parent, like they know all, like they should be able to do all of these things, and no kidding, they cannot. And like that's shitty.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
To your point, that is the way you said that is I guess how I feel with my mom. Like I turn to her as a little boy. Like I need my mommy,
My mommy,
right?
yeah.
I need my mommy right now. And to see her act human in this situation, it was hurtful.
No, I think that's important. And like I said, loving people from a distance. Like I rekindled my relationship with my dad, I think, let's say like 2, 3 years ago. And it wasn't for a lack of him reaching out. I didn't know my dad growing up at all. Like when I say a couple years ago, I know kidding me a couple years ago. And once you have the notion that adults are human and like they don't have it all together, like just because you're this age doesn't mean that you know this, then I kind of tried to like ease him in. So it's like, okay, maybe we don't talk on the phone like once a week. Like maybe if you just hit me up on like Facebook or like comment on my pictures and that's the extent of what you can do, like let's try that. And I think that just knowing where to place people is just really, really appropriate, family or not.
It is. I really struggled with that relationship with my mom because people were like, "Oh man, but that's your mom. That's your mom." And I was really just like, "But if that was my mom, then why? Like, why would she do that? Right? If that was my mom, like, if I cannot respect her just on the merit of that is my mom now, right? And that is not to discount her raising me or anything like that. But I feel like as parents, you have to love your children in the ages that they are. So at this age, yes, I am an adult. So I'm going to do what I want to do, right? I'm going to do what I feel is necessary for me. And I don't have to do that with your permission. I don't need your permission anymore. Like I can do it if I want to. I don't need your permission. I don't need your blessing or anything. Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I don't think she could handle that. I don't think she could handle me saying, well, this is what I'm going to do. I don't care what you think.
Yeah, it's definitely strong. Like, I'm going through the same thing with my mom right now. And not even to get really too deep into that. I feel like I've always been, I don't call myself rebellious, but I've always been very like strong minded or strong willed, if you will.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just you got to see it through, my boy. You know what I'm saying? And if it turns out, shitty, then my bad. Yeah. But if it works out, then it works out. And I just have seen more times than not it work out for me, for believing in myself and betting on myself and me. No kidding, whether you believe in God or not, I do go into God. I've asked God for things as simple, what we think is simple, as like courage, as peace, as like happiness, the will to get up. Like I've done those things so much that like I've learned to trust myself a lot more. And so when people, I don't know if you guys have ever read the Four Agreements, but they just talk about how you have to agree with a thought for it to be so, right? So like if I always use this example, if I tell you you're stupid and you're like, oh, okay, so you're bugging, like I'm not stupid, then it's whatever. But if you don't have that, which is why so many things get embedded into us when we're young, when we're vulnerable, and I am constantly telling you you're stupid or constantly telling you this, and you start to believe that, now you really think that you're stupid. Now the way your self-talk, everything is that you're stupid. And the life is literally, life and death, are in the tongue. And so you then to start to speak those things when you go through those vulnerable moments and you're looking for support and in those things, and all you're really getting is like, you're this or you're that. It's just like, I can either allow this because this is my mom or this is my, family, whatever, or I can shut that person off, really get down to who I believe that I am at my core and go from there. And I think that's the biggest thing in relationships and friendships. Once you grow into a different version of yourself, so I feel like that's why people have 1 to 2 friends, because you really, sometimes people, they can't transcend through you with those different stages. Some people like being the friend that's always got it going on, the friend that always you come into for advice. Now, when you get your shit together and you don't need to go to them for advice anymore, they don't feel like they have the same role or the same upper hand, and they can't take that, and your friendship falls off. And it's like, if that's somebody that's really close to you, if that's your mom, if that's your, damn near your brother, because y'all been, friends for so long, then that's hard to deal with. So I just think getting to know yourself is so important. If not for yourself, if you have kids in this world, then definitely for your kids, because you're not going to need to show them how to do the same thing.
Yeah. One thing I when I was initially going through that process and, feeling the guilt and all that stuff, but still just, trying to find myself. Just one thing I used to tell myself is, I can't be better for anybody else if I'm not better for myself. Right. So I think that's really been the focus, is being better for myself. It's definitely been a hard fought process, but we're here,
Yeah.
We're here.
So I want to kind of wrap this segment up, and then we're going to go into one last thing, and we'll wrap the entire episode up.
Got it.
And I don't know if I asked you this, but just some questions that you asked yourself when you started trying to find yourself. At least 2 things that you learned about yourself, and small victories.
So 2 things I've learned about myself and trying to find myself. Yeah. I've learned that I don't need a lot. I've accepted that I am more of an ambivert. I think I'm saying that right. Ambivert. The combination of extrovert and introvert.
Oh, okay. I was like, tell me the definition.
It's a word. I just can't. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I am definitely a loner when I want to be a loner. I'm definitely all about my me time and just chilling and being by myself. Not even necessarily doing anything, but just existing in my own space and time. But then I do have times where I want to be social. I want to be out with people. But that introvertedness that I have, it kind of alienates me sometimes, because I don't really put myself out there to meet people and hang out with people and stuff like that. So like when I do find myself wanting to be social, it's like I don't really have anybody to be social with. So and then you end up at the club by yourself looking like a creep. So You just go back up.
But I feel like I said it's so hard for men to like, because you don't go up and be like, do you want to be my friend?
Exactly. You can't. Like, that's weird. Like, move, weirdo. Like, what? Nah, yeah, and I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to find people I feel like that are on my vibe, in a sense. I wanna hang out with people who are, fun and, easy to be around, but I don't want to hang around no fuck niggas either. So it's like it's hard to kind of find that aspect, because especially at my age, I don't want to hang out with a bunch of 20-year-olds, like early 20s and stuff like that. Like, I ain't got nothing in common with you. Like, but then like the guys that are either around my age are either still young minded in the sense of like stuff that they're trying to do and like that, or they're all married, so they're like, oh man, yeah, I got a curfew, I got to go back. Like, so it's kind of weird. So I've learned that I'm okay with being by myself. I'm okay with hanging by myself. Because out of that, that's really what's helped me get to know myself. That's really what has helped me progress in my hobbies, is having time to myself. Let's see, one more thing that I've learned about myself. I've learned, the one that you don't like, I've learned that I'm very inconsistent. And I guess that goes to the goals and setting goals and stuff like that. You get all hype about setting a goal. Like, all right, I'm going to do this. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it like this. Tomorrow is the day, right? And then you on that for like a hot week and a half. And it's like, start making up excuses. And
next Monday for
next Monday, on the 1st of the month. It's only the 15th of the previous month.
But on the first one,
yeah, I am really inconsistent with like sticking out with things. Like I feel like I give myself a lot of excuses, and I've been really trying to cut back on giving myself excuses. What was the other one?
Small victory.
Small victories. Small victories have been setting small goals. Because I'm so inconsistent. Set smaller goals to get the victories that you want. So yeah, I ain't ashamed about it, people. I just really started setting goals for myself very recently, because like we said before, I was still trying to find myself, and I never really set any goals. I was content with being in the military with a steady paycheck with benefits. That's what I do. But recently I've been, trying to set goals and trying to see just how much I can do. Not telling myself that I can't do, and just really seeing what I can do, right? And stop telling myself, oh, but you can't do this because of that. Well, you ain't even tried yet. Let's try and see what happens. So yeah, small victories. I'm really a small step person, because, and I know that can drive some people crazy, like yourself. But the reason why I take the small steps is because I don't want to feel overwhelmed with a huge goal. So my small steps are leading me towards a bigger goal. I'm just taking them in smaller increments. So like if I wanted to lose weight, it would be, all right, my ultimate goal is to lose 30 pounds, right? But my small goals are to lose a pound a week, right? Instead of just looking at like, I got to lose 30 pounds. Like that can be hard, right? So I try to break things down to smaller goals to achieve the bigger goal.
Okay. Any advice to men struggling through a divorce or thinking about getting one past the age of 30?
Look here, King. Let me tell you, I ain't gonna lie. It is definitely cheaper to keep her. Oh man.
Regrets?
Ooh.
Are those regrets out here?
Nah, no regrets. No regrets. Yeah, but I just want to be honest. I just want to be honest about. I heard your regrets. Okay. Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Nah, you. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So now I had to say it twice.
But no, do what you feel is right for you. Divorce is definitely a big decision, so I would say make sure that that's what you actually want to do, because you don't want to get divorced and be like, oh man, crazy. Yeah, let me go back. So yeah, definitely make sure that's something that you want to do. Definitely go to therapy. I mean, I started going to therapy while I was
individual therapy.
Yeah, individual therapy. I started going to therapy while I was in the process, and it was really just to walk through how I was feeling, right? Like just trying to understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. Take the time. I didn't take the time. I couldn't afford to take the time. So She don't like to hear that, but it's true. Found you too soon. I couldn't take the time because you came into my life too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't let you go.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. But yeah, take the time, man. And if you don't know who you are, I mean, take that time to figure out. It is a definitely a new chapter that you will be entering into life. I can't speak for everybody because every situation is different. But if you have been married for a long period of time and then you make this transition, it is definitely going to be a big transition to make.
But like walk through some of the different emotions. So like for example, for me, like the separation of the person is one thing. And then like seeing them with somebody else is another thing.
Yeah.
Them wanting to that person or your kids wanting to be around that person, that's another thing. Like those different emotions that you don't think that you're gonna feel or you don't expect them to be as like devastating as they are.
Well, I have not had to go through that yet on my side. She has. I haven't had to go through that process of like seeing her with somebody else and then my kids wanting to be around somebody else or whatever. I think the hardest part was just trying to introduce them to you, right? Because really for Christian, because he was the oldest one, and just trying to navigate that whole situation was a little difficult. The other two, Cameron and Carter, I wouldn't say that they're oblivious, but they don't care. Like, I think they're just at the age they don't really care. They're just going with the flow. Right? Christian was a little bit harder to deal with. But yeah, just trying to navigate that space. Some of the things that I had to go through on my end, though, was things I didn't think that I would have a problem with. So you remember like how I felt about like spending time with your son and then not spending time with my kids. Like I didn't think that I would have that issue. I didn't think that would affect me that way. Missing certain things. So I haven't missed anything with my kids except for Carter. I was there to see, their first steps, words, all that stuff. Like I was always around to be able to see those things. But being in the military, that is unheard of for a lot of people. But I've been blessed to be able to be around for those moments as they happen. But Mr. Carter, we was going through the divorce process. I missed his first steps. And that was very hard on me. Like I took that pretty hard. But yeah, I think the hardest part was just the kids, really, just trying to separate, not separate, but just trying to get them to adapt to the new lifestyle.
Making sure you're giving your kids enough time because you don't want your kids to feel like, oh, okay, like you just switched up now. Yeah. Now my son gets all the attention and the things that they used to get. And then for me on my side, like it's me and Cam. You know what I'm saying? So then to go from 1 to like 4, I mean, I still don't even know the magnitude, of that. And
I don't think Cam's got a problem with it.
My Cam?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. My Cam has already made Netflix accounts for each one of his boys, okay? Like he's excited. He can't wait. But yeah, I always like to shine. That's why I call it the vault, because I like to shine the truth on things. I think people always highlight the glamorous parts of whether it's relationships, lifestyle, whatever. But I like to get into the raw emotion of it because I feel like there's always gold in like authentic experiences. Like nobody else is you. They're not going to experience it the same. Yeah. You might have something in common. Like you might have like relatable content, as I like to call it. But you're still yourself and you still, process things.
Yeah. I know we're getting ready to wrap up. But one thing that I just really thought about, that I remember actually, is I definitely noticed the difference between men and women in terms of like support, right? Because going through the divorce process and all that stuff, wasn't nobody coming to my aid, trying to see, how you doing, what's going on, you know what I mean? Like there was plenty of times, I ain't ashamed to say it. I was crying a couple times, at work and stuff like that. Didn't nobody care. Didn't nobody give no flying fuck about me. Do you think it's
because you were the one that was filing? Like you were.
But I still feel like that shouldn't matter. Like it's still an emotional part that goes into it. Like I saw people change the way they viewed me. I saw people stop talking to me. Like I witnessed all of that, and it was pretty hurtful because even though I'm more of a introverted person, it was still like one of those things for people to see you hurting and not care. That made it. And I guess I don't know if
People that you thought.
people that I thought like were in my corner. Before it happened, people that I considered to be mentors, people that I considered, to be not necessarily like friends, but just cordial people that I talk to, whatever. You know, yeah, and it was a very lonely process. Like even though yes, you were there, it was still a lonely road. So yeah, that's why I say, man, go to therapy. Go to therapy for sure, man. Because I definitely started going just so I can have somebody to talk to because I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to. And it is something so freeing about talking to a stranger. Talking to a stranger, somebody that's like non-biased, you can just talk, right? And then walk out of there just feeling good. And that's why I originally started going to therapy because I had nobody to talk to. Not in the way that I needed to talk to. I had nobody to talk to that didn't have any skin in the game. And I just need to talk to somebody that didn't care about not necessarily not care, but they didn't have any play. It didn't affect them in any kind of way. And it was great. It helped a lot. I still go to therapy now.
Well, there's a piece that I skipped over in the beginning because I told you what I felt like attracted me to your situation and understanding. But I mean, you didn't really say.
Oh.
Like, I mean, is I'm fun in the words of Young Miami? Like, because I feel also like people first of all, if anybody's still technically married, they're like, no, steer clear of that because if they get separated, that they could get back together. 9 times out of 10, men don't actually leave. And I got the whole spiel, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to make it seem like this relationship has been a walk in the park.
It definitely has not.
We've broken up no less than like...
We ain't got to put a number on it.
We don't. We got to do that. But, it is hard, you know what I'm saying? Especially trying to be there for somebody who's still healing and still, and then like you said, like still feeling guilty and responsible for her, happiness and her, things and feeling guilty for being happy over here. As a person that's just coming in trying to like be there, like that's a heavy thing. And I think when we met, I was like, what, 24, 25?
24.
So like
you was a youngin.
I was a youngin, but at the same time, I feel like I still had a lot of understanding.
You did
of life, not of your situation.
For sure, yeah, that's what I was about to say. So you were younger than me, but I feel like you were light years ahead of me in the life department, for sure. But to answer your question, what attracted me to you? The thing that when you asked me this question, because we talked about it earlier, but the one thing that I pinpoint into is the day that we actually started just talking, and we talked nonstop for the entire day, right? And it was just the jokes back and forth.
Because I'm funny. It's because I'm funny. It's okay. Funny. It's okay. I don't know.
I'm funny. Don't let her lie to you.
Go ahead.
Y'all don't see behind closed doors.
Whatever.
That's where all the funny stuff happens. Go ahead. Hey man, you ain't pay me for my
Go ahead, Phillip. Say what you gotta say.
But no, that day, we just talking nonstop over text, and then it was just like a breath of fresh air in the sense of like just being able to talk to somebody and just tell jokes back and forth and just get to know each other. Some jokes landed more than others. My jokes landed more
okay, Phillip.
But yeah, like it was from then. And then just moving forward, like all the conversations that we've had, like we said before, like we really just be in our own world. Like in a room full of people, we be in our own world.
I really do.
And I don't know, it was just friend. Like we can look at each other and laugh about something without even saying what we're laughing about, but we know what we're laughing about. Yeah. I think it's just like I've been harping on the friendship, the communication. I didn't have a lot of communication in the marriage, and definitely feel like that we have that here.
I'm gonna tell you how I'm feeling.
For sure, I get that easy. But yeah, I mean, even with that, like I would rather you tell me how you feeling, and even if we have an argument about it or whatever, at least I know that wasn't something that I had the privilege of knowing back in my marriage. Like I said, we would just let stuff float in the air, and then until it dissolved, and then we'll start back talking to each other. But we'll walk around the house all damn day, not saying nothing to each other. Days on end sometimes.
Talk to me.
Yeah. And we, like I said, we just let that shit float in the air and then it just float away.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to add?
Yo, check my SoundCloud link.
Shut up.
All right, don't be no hater. Don't be no hater. Hey, we got a couple tracks on the way too. Lauren got bars. Just want to let y'all know.
Yeah, all right. Anyway. No, but thank you so much for coming to the vault. I appreciate you and all your transparency. I don't know. I love this journey for you. So I'm happy to be able to take a little passenger seat.
I couldn't ask for a better co-pilot.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, y'all. Well, that is going to be a wrap on today. So tune in next time. Thank you.